Greetings all, and welcome to the Buddha's Invitation, done while driving. Today we're going to look a little bit into the three characteristic marks of existence. What are the three characteristic marks of existence? They are impermanence, anicca, dukkha, or unhappiness, sorrow. I think we talked a little bit about that word. And anatta, or not the self. The one way that you'll come across this teaching is that the Buddha has us examine ourselves against these three marks of existence. So for instance, the Buddha has us look at our body. And one of the first things we can notice about our body is that it is impermanent. We know that it's constantly changing, and we can think back to what it was like when we were younger, what it must have been like. I mean, obviously, I don't have memories of when I was, a couple days old, or even maybe a year old, but we know that the body has changed quite a bit over time, and it's going to continue to change. So the Buddha starts with this anicca, this impermanence, with respect to our body. And then the Buddha, just following upon that, says that what is impermanent is dukkha, is ill at ease, is not satisfactory, is sometimes suffering. And that is typically due to the fact that we are clinging to something as if it is permanent. We like our bodies, but they're not, not only are they impermanent, they're going to, at some point, they're just going to completely give out. So this can lead to uneasiness, anxiety, etc. And then the Buddha goes from there and talks about how that which is dukkha, that which is, produces anxiety or leads to this unsatisfactoriness and suffering, that cannot be the self. We might say the real self. You might even put in a capital S, self, there. Now, this is where a lot of Buddhists are, I would say there are some hardcore Buddhists who just say there's no self. Everything is no self. That isn't really what the Pali says. And it's not that you can't understand it like that, but I think really what is being said is that anything that is dukkha is not the self. And so the reason that I want to put it that way, and that it's good to think about it that way, is because the Buddha is not denying here, at least, a self. He's denying that our body, and actually the Buddha has us ponder all our mental faculties as well, and we would come to the same conclusion, so that there's no actual aspect of ourselves which is the quote self. As I said, that does not deny the existence of a self. And some people would, go ahead and say that the Buddha nature, that seems like a self, or maybe even something like nibbana or nirvana would fit the bill of a self. But just want to keep in mind that I don't think the Buddha is categorically denying a self. It's just denying that any aspect that we come across of ourselves, and actually anywhere in the world, anything could not be considered a self. And the reason for that is, and I think this was true even of ancient Greek philosophers, is when they looked at things, they thought that anything that would change, that would undergo change, was actually not real. So this is in that category. The self has to be something that doesn't undergo change. And again, that isn't anything that we experience, or typically. So one thing that we might think about is that the Buddha's teaching is designed to lead us to a place where we do experience this unchanging aspect. I don't want to say aspect, and this is where words really start to, they start to fail us. But really, the Buddha is trying to lead us to nirvana. And I think we've already said that is the, nirvana. One way to think about that is it's devoid of the three unwholesome roots. It's devoid of lust and greed and delusion. And there are other places where the Buddha talks about nirvana as if it's kind of a place. It's not a place, but having to use words to describe it. I mean, that is really, I would say, the goal of the Buddha's teaching, because that's where we're free from suffering. So anyway, I think that embarking upon an examination of impermanence, dukkha, anxiety, ill-at-easiness, suffering, and then what is not the self, that's not only a good beginning, I mean, that can probably take us all the way. One other thing that the Buddha's teaching is trying to help us do is overcome attachment, and by actually realizing that things are impermanent and that it's sort of futile to hold on to something that's impermanent, we hopefully will give up trying to grasp. It's kind of like if we blow a bubble, we don't really expect those bubbles to be around. We might even kind of get sad. You might have an interesting bubble formation, and you want it to last, but we know bubbles aren't going to last very long. And actually, a mountain is no different, a galaxy, maybe even an entire universe. Everything's just a bubble. So with that, I will invite you, dear listener, to share your comments, your experience, your own thoughts on these three characteristic marks. And yes, I look forward to hearing what you have to say. With that, peace.